Okay, I got first side done on the engine with the rocker arms, and I'm going to start on the second side here. And kind of see what I'm doing here. So they're all in. I have them all set to about a 5 thou clearance with feeler gauge. Valve cover, I'm going to have to go in and take a few thou off each side. I checked the thickness. I can afford to take 15 thou off each side, and I think that'll fit then. But I'm still thinking about putting welding some plexiglass or Lexan together and milling out some clear ones for it. I might just do that when I get done here. When I get done with the second side. But yeah, we're going to turn around and do the second side here. I made a little ugly wrench a couple little ugly wrenches for tightening the screws up. All it is what do you call them? Sheetrock knife blade, and then I just took in and cut the notch in there to fit the screws, so I can put the screw in and then put the little lock nut on. So what I got to do now is sit down and make some more push rods and fit them in there, and when I get the second side done, I will come back and give you a look at it. Just thought I'd show you how I get my screws to the length that I want, you know, the length of thread that I want under the head, because I want all of these pretty close to the same, and I just want to show you the process I use. The first thing I do is I go ahead and I make a little sleeve like this. I turn it up, drill and tap a hole in it, and this is the length of thread that I want. I turn that up, I cut a slot in it, and then that way I can take and take a screw and just turn it in all the way. Basically, it's just a little collet, threaded collet that fits in my 5C collet. Okay, so that's the amount of threads that I want to take off of this screw, because I want to leave the length of that collet. So I just take my clippers and I get as close as I can to it, and I just clip it off, and I go ahead over on the lathe and then I finish it up by just facing that off. And when I turn it back out, it straightens out that first thread. Don't have to chamfer it or anything. It seems to work out pretty good that way. I've done that for all my small screws. I've got different lengths, little collets for them. I just thought that I'd kind of show you how I'm doing it. I don't know how many more other people are doing it that way, but that's how I do it, and it works out fine for me. My screws come out to the right length every time, unless my stop moves. But it works. Okay, I finished up the second side, putting rocker arms on, and now I set the head gas or the intake on it, and it looks like I might have to put a double gasket underneath there, just to allow for a little bit of air somewhere that I put it on and put the intake on there, and it doesn't want to quite seat down in there perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a double gasket in it, raise it up a little bit, give it a little more compression, or gasket can compress and then conform to the two surfaces of the head and the intake. But I'll give you a shot of what it's looking like. And get situated here. And it's right here, you can see it's not quite conforming to the, so, and that's with a gasket in, one gasket in there. If I put two gaskets in there, it should be okay. It's just moving that up another, these surfaces up another 20. Not sure how else I could, if I faced off the back side. I'm going to go with just putting two gaskets in it. I think that'll work. It'll work fine. But they're all in there. They're all working. And I do got to make a spacer for this, as Steve suggested that, and I agree that put that in there and here, pull it out. But you leave the screw loose and have that pulled down a little bit, and then put it in there and let the gear push it into place, and then pull it out and carefully measure that gap, and then I'll put a spacer in there so that it can't push up. Otherwise it could push up and push this into your valve cap, or your, not valve cap, distributor cap. So you don't want that happening. So, but I will do that after I have everything gasketed and then put in place, because that way, this will come out to the right height. Otherwise, if I do it first, it's still going to be a gap underneath then. So, and I know the plan's called out for a little clamp out here on the side to hold the distributor. Instead, I drilled and tapped this top hole for this all the way through, and what I'm going to use that for setting the distributor. So this screw in the back will come in and onto that surface of the diameter of the distributor down in there, and that way I can clock it and then tighten it up and set it, and I won't have to try to get underneath there. Otherwise you'd have to try to get underneath with a little wrench or something, because I kind of strayed from the plans also. I just made this a solid instead of the bracket on the side of it, so I can turn it anywhere I want. I was originally going to put a clamp there, and what I should have did was left it bigger so that the clamp could have been out beyond, had a little more of a land out here, but it didn't. But this will work with a screw in the back. It'll come in and pinch on here to keep it. It doesn't have to be anything that's gonna crank down tight on it. So I'll put a what they call a half dog set screw in there probably. So, but it's coming along. It's beautiful outside today, so this is probably going to be it for me for today. I do have a few things I got to do around the yard, and I've got carrots in the garden yet that I haven't dug. I need to go dig those up and enjoy the outside for the day. I might come back in the shop in the tonight when it after the sun goes down because it cools off pretty quick. And then I'll probably cut out some more intake gaskets for it and put a double gasket underneath it. But as far as the rocker arms, they're on. Oh, and my valve covers. If I don't make plexiglass one, I am going to go in and take probably a 10 or 15 thou cut on each side. That way they'll fit, and I know that they won't rub on the rocker arms. So I'm still contemplating on making some polyurethane or Lexan. I don't know if anybody out there knows, I mean, how many of you know about welding that stuff together. You can take 2 sheets of it, two blocks the size you want, two you know, I got either 1/4 inch or 3/8. I might have some 3/8. You just clean it real good, and then you splash a little bit of acetone on it and put the 2 pieces together. And you don't have to really clamp it real hard. I just lay it on the surface plate, put maybe a pound or so weight on it and let it sit. And let it sit overnight. And that welds it together. You're not going to get them apart. And that way you can build up and make the block as thick as you want. Matter of fact, I did that for my practice part for it's the engine block, and for proofing. I didn't have proofing materials, and I wanted to see the depths and everything, make sure everything came out right. So I used plexiglass. And if you look real close, you can see the layers. Well, I can't see them right now. Well, yeah, you can right there a little bit. Right there a little bit, but yeah, so I do have a plexiglass clear engine block. I was contemplating on going through and making all the parts plexiglass. I got cylinder heads for it, so that I can actually put the cylinder head on it, but somewhere along the line I decided no, that's not gonna happen. So anyway, I do have, like I say, I have the engine block and one of the heads for it made. You can see where I had an NC errors. I kind of colored them in red here. You know, I had an error there, and I had an error here, had an error up here. And like I say, this was used it for proofing. Used it for proofing the program out. So anyway, that's it for today. I'll catch you guys later. If I decide to come back out here tonight, I'll give you an update on what I get done. Okay, I got the double gasket made for the intake manifold, and I ran into another little situation here. My distributor no longer fits into the distributor hole in the back. There's a little bit of a misalignment between the two. So in order to solve that, I'm going to, through the manifold, I'm going to set up, and I'm going to bore out the hole here a little bit. I think I'm going to go like maybe 5 or 10 thou oversize on it and see how it'll fit. I don't believe the oil will come up and through that hole anyway, because there's a flange that's going to fit around it tight, snug, and if anything, I could put a gasket underneath it too. I don't think I'm going to have any problem with it. It's still going to fit snug into the engine block, just going to be a little bit looser up in the top here. Because right now, if I put this on here with the double gaskets and tighten it up, it tweaks a little bit and tightens up on the distributor. So that's another little problem that I ran into, because I'm ending up using 20 thou gasket instead of 10 on the intake manifold, but it'll work. So I got it started to set up on the mill here. It's because I came out after supper and did those gaskets and put everything together, and then I couldn't get the distributor in, and then I could see that it's a little bit of a misalignment down there. And I'm going to set up and do that in the morning and get that to fit on there. Once that's done, then I'll set the gear on the end of the distributor, and I can install that. And then I'm going to start thinking about spark plug wires and spark plug the boots. I'm still thinking about going and getting some of that Flex Seal from Menards, just to see if that'll work. If it doesn't work, I'm going to go ahead with what Steve suggested and order some of that. I think it's silicone stuff that he used, and then I'll have to wait for that to come in and work on that. But for now, I'm hoping that Flex Seal will work, because it'd be a nice black color, and it all depends on if I can get it out of the mold with, I don't have any mold release. I'm just going to wax it up real good and then put some of that Flex Seal in there and let it set up. I did look up the temp specs. It just says 250 plus that it's okay for. So how much more, I don't know. And I know that latex, not latex. Is it, or is it? Yeah, it's latex. The stuff that Steve was using, I went and looked up the specs on that, and I think that's 350. 350 or 300. So, but I don't really think that out there is going to get 200 over 250 degrees. That's pretty hot, and I'm not going to run that engine that much anyway. It'll be just a little show and tell here and there. It's not going to sit there and run for 20 minutes. So, but anyway, that's where I'm at. So until tomorrow, catch you later.